Good morning. Our hand today is going to be pocket tens. In this hand, villain 1 under the gun limps. He's playing 32-16. I've got 412 hands on him. This is unusual for him to limp. His limp first sin stats 5%, 4 out of 75 from early position. So I think he is just speculative. And when we think about like the hands that he's limping in with, I'm going to kind of think something like this. Small pocket pairs, we'll add 6. Maybe we'll add 7s too. 7s, maybe 2s to 7s, and then maybe something offsuit. Based on his stats, and you can see his raise first in from early position 16. 16% kind of includes the ace queen plus king queen suited, a lot of the suited broadways, pocket pairs. I mean, all of these hands that typically would raise, like let's say this, and then some more, gets us to that 16. But since it's only 5, I think we're looking at something that's actually pretty weak. And this could be it. I mean, narrow, weak. If you check on a flop, if he check raises us, we got to be worried that maybe he hit one of the low trips, or maybe he has 2 pair with like 2 broadways. Folds to mid position who raises, and he raises to 4.5. This is 33rd hand. He's played 22-9. He looks to be somewhat of a slightly on the passive side with the separation between VPIP and preflop raise. We've got limp and call to raise with queen jack, queen 8. This sizing seems interesting. Seems a little big for standard sizing. We could look at his stats, and unfortunately we just don't have a large number of hands to really deduce anything, and I don't really have a huge number of notes, so I kind of struggled with this hand. But I think something maybe like this, something strong. I mean, he raised a 4.5, and unless he's playing something like me where you're taking into account limpers with your raises, I kind of think we can exclude some of these hands, some of these pocket pairs. I guess if you raise first in and raise that much, yeah, we could probably reduce aces or kings and say, yeah, this looks like a bet where it's like queens, jacks, or 10s. I think we're going to leave this in, see how it, see how our range stacks up. Villain 6 calls, he's playing loose. It's 42-42, which is interesting. So when he's called, it's basically when he's played a hand, he's basically came in for a raise, but there's only 12 hands. So the question is, what kind of hands is he going to be limping in with? I'm giving him a range something like this. Definitely loose. I do think he's going to be 3-betting, and we do know he 4-bets his queens. So if he 4-bets queens, he's going to 3-bet here with queens plus, and I think he'd probably also do it with jacks as well. But that gets us to 18, closer to his 42%. And then it's on us. This is our 3-better call range. We could adjust it based on the caller. This probably isn't a too bad a spot to squeeze, and 10s could represent kind of at the upper end of our squeezing range here, minus the hands that we always 3-bet. So like always 3-bet something like that. You can see the 10s are kind of at the top of this part of range. I think we could 3-bet. I think with 10s though, with 2 players, I think I'm okay with just calling here, which is what I did. Looking to flop, we are in position, so on like a 1 overcard board, we could raise flop and apply pressure since we're in position. Especially if it's only 1 player then on the flop. So if, let's say, this guy bets, he folds, I could raise on the button and apply pressure not only to this guy, but also to this guy to say, hey, you really need to have a hand if you're going to call. So I don't necessarily mind the call. I think that's okay. Blinds fold, and then villain 1 calls, and we go back to his range and say, well, are there any hands that he would get rid of? No, not with 2 calls. I think he's keeping this range. So we see a board of king 10-5 with 2 spades. Villain bets 9. We hit trips. Villain 6 fold. So this guy's probably checking. This guy, I think, is going to be betting top pair plus. I think most players tend to check the pocket pair below the top card. I think we're going to give him credit for betting here. Again, we don't have a huge number of hands, but so far he's c-bet out of position 2 out of 2 times. Could mean that the flops have been favorable to him. Could mean that he just c-bets all the time. But I think we're going to give him flush draw, open ender. I think we got top pair plus, over pair sets. I think the queens and jacks will probably just check because of the way that the board came out. Same thing with like a middle pair or pot, 8s or 9s. You're up against 3 opponents. I think you're going to be a little bit more straightforward. I like it because most of this hand's going to be top pair or an over pair, so like aces or like ace king, king queen. And I think we're going to get paid by him. Also, I think I'm going to include flush draw and open ender. Maybe the gut shot. Maybe he has ace queen, ace jack that he fires with once, and we'll give that to him. So 65%. This guy folds, didn't hit anything, and then it's on us. What do we do? I think this is a good spot for a raise, and I do raise. Raise to 30, 3 times this bet. I think that looks good. We're getting it, so if he calls, we're setting ourselves up for a pot size bet. Probably didn't consider that, but that is something we have to be aware of. So we have, what are we going to raise here? I think we've got sets. I think 2 pair get raised. I think top pair is kind of too strong. Not too strong. I think top pairs, I think we can call here with top pair and evaluate. I don't really want to raise that. I think we're going to be raising some of our middle pair. Problem I see is that it's not one overcard, it's 2. And we've got the spade. So, this could be a good spot oftentimes, or at least the situation, positioning, where you can raise like a 10, you could raise 9s or 8s and really put some pressure back on villain, because it's saying, hey, I don't believe you have a king. He could have ace queen, could have ace jack, but the question is, would he really bet those? Would he really bet 10 jack, 10 queen? And I'm just not too sure. So because of that, I'm not really thrilled with betting these hands, these pocket pairs less than the second card. If we bet them, we're not really betting them for value. We're just betting them kind of as a bluff. So when we look at these, thing is like, are we doing it with all of them? I think we're more likely to bet if we bet these hands if we have like a backdoor flush draw. I don't see him on here, so I'd have to go through and kind of manually, pick him up. So if we had the spades, I think we could probably do that. I think these other hands, we just probably get rid of them. Maybe we could just pick the 10s and say, those pocket pairs we call along with our top pair, middle pairs we raise, and lean more towards raising with these hands that have diamonds. So let's see how many that is. So if we do like jack 10, those 3, it gets us even, but I'm not sure if that's enough. So that gets us better to a decent kind of bluff and value ratio. So I raise, villain 1 folds. It's hard. He's going to be heavy on these low pairs. If he raised, I'm putting him on trip 5s. So now I raised normal, and then he kind of did a min raise, and that is concerning. That is concerning. So we get to this point, and then the question is, well, what's he going to min raise? I don't think top pair min raises, but I think he's got the overpair in sets, and I don't think flush draw or any of those min raise. So we're dealing with sets or overpair, and it's going to be a 50-50 chance. 50-50 chance that he has trips, 50-50 chance that he has an overpair, but if we take out tens, because there's, that's not possible. We've kind of, we're going to have to get rid of tens. Now you can see how it changes. So now we're like 2-1. Do we just shove? Do we call? Do we go over the top? Question is, would he do that with the overpair? How many players would do that with an overpair? Definitely, I think a lot of players would do that with the overpair. So I just kind of go ahead and shove. I don't think I like the shove. I think I like just calling a little bit better, because it could set up the turn. So if we call 50, that's going to be 120 in there. 120, we're going to have 61 is the effective stack, but we're going to have 56. So, less than half pot. This almost seems like a sucker bet. Like he wants to be called. And I'm not sure if aces does that. I mean, aces can. People do that with aces. This is a 10 NL game. I shove because at that point, we're getting rid of the middle pair. We're getting, we think about the flush draw. We got 2 pair sets, and the question is, would they do it with sets? And kind of gets back to, what are they doing this with? I think aces this is 10 NL. I think aces is definitely a possibility. And there's more aces than there are kings. So at this point, I need 17% chance to, or I need 17% pot odds to win. If I'm up against kings, I basically have 0. Well, yeah, not quite, but I'm looking for that 110. I've got 1 out. So 2% chance if he has kings. If he has aces, I'm in really good shape. Let's check it. All right, so pulled out Equilab, checked it out. So we've got 10s on this board versus aces or kings. And basically at this point, I'm 60%. This seems like it's an easy call. If I raise, who do I get called by? If I raise, I do think I get called by kings. Would I get called by aces? Really good players are going to fold aces. Because when you think about, would a queens do that? Would jacks do that? Would ace king do that? I don't think so. I expect ace king to 3-bet. Maybe king 10, 2 pair. But at 10 NL, players are too passive, so that's why I kind of think I'm leaning more towards these aces. This would be a real tough fold. But I didn't. I raised. He calls. At this point, once he calls, aces or kings. I think that's all that we can put him on. Run out comes 9s and jacks, or a 9 and a jack. No spade, no flush. Queen gives a straight now, and he shows kings. So it's in there. So kind of put it on there. I said flop decision. I think I have a flop decision because I think his c-bet's fine. I raise. When he came back with that min raise, it just seems too fishy. Why not? I think if he had like aces, he would raise that larger. Instead of doing the min raise, he probably would have just shoved. Because he has nothing to worry about. And what he's doing is, he's in his mind, he's probably thinking, I need to get the spades out. But since he didn't, it's leaning more heavily towards trips. So just out of curiosity, let's see what GTO says. I've got my ranges put into place. I've got villain. He's supposed to be c-betting. He did. And then I've got some raises with my 10s. I've got some raises 10-9. Yep. See, I had some of that. 2 pair. I don't have kings. I've got 5s. So yeah, it just kind of matches what I was somewhat predicting. We're tossing in some of these, like ace, jack, king, queen as raises, some of these aces. But I think overall we kind of had the right idea. I didn't mess with sizes. I just kind of did give us a chance where we could get all in. So I raised, and then when he raises again, what is he raising with? He's raising with 10 volts. Well, we know he doesn't have that. He's raising with jack 10. And that's going to be hard to have. And then you've got aces and kings. So when he raises, then it kind of comes back to us. Should we basically go all in? Should we call? We've got very few calls here. If we're going to play this, we're basically going to go all in. And, the question is why? I mean, he has jack 10. He's got maybe a small amount of 8s. But it looks like we're pushing all in with the flushes. Nut flush draws, ace 3, ace 4. That's because we've got some backdoor potential. We've had flushes, and then you have your backdoor straights as well. 2 pair trips. So I think according to GTO, we're doing okay. And then we've got villain calling aces or kings. Yeah, GTO, I think we're doing it appropriately. But for an exploitative play, I just think the bet sizes look so much like aces. So much like aces. I'm sorry, not aces, like trip kings. And it's unfortunate. It's going trips versus trips. It's hard to get rid of. It's hard to fold that. It's hard to fold trips at any time because they're monster hands. But this is a spot where I think we could realistically fold based on bet sizes. I think one of the vloggers always says you never fold trips. Never fold trips. So I may have been thinking about this when the hand was playing. Never fold trips. But kind of got hosed because he had kings and we had 10s. I think, yeah, it's a tough fold. We would kick ourselves. If we do a fold like this all the time, we can be exploitable. But I think here, we're the one exploiting. And in a live game, you could easily fold and show 10s if you think players aren't going to be tricky enough to make this play with, like a 10, 10-9, 10-jack, under pair, and so forth. All right, so hopefully you enjoy this hand. If you do, look tomorrow for another one.